Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. I'm Steven from X Kurogani Photos. For today, I am going to share with everyone what is in my camera bag for year 2025. At least that is the title for today's video, but it is a lot more than that. I am actually sharing all of my gear over here, a list of my gear, why I bought them, and how I use them for my user case scenario, and what do I choose to bring out, be it to my studio or to outdoors. I can't possibly carry everything, right? So I'm going to share my experience with you guys as a product, scale model, and toy photographer. Mostly a hobbyist, but I also take paid jobs from companies that manufacture the very products you're seeing behind me. Yeah, they send me prototypes to photograph, to film them, and I review the very same products in my other channel, X Kurogani Studio. Okay, so back to gear, camera gear for year 2025. Just 4 months ago, around August, my gear was Nikon D850, Nikon Z6, and Nikon Z30, which all three I have already reviewed in this channel. Within the past 2 months, this channel was published. This is a new channel, by the way. By today, just 4 months later, my camera gear has completely changed because I needed to upgrade. For example, the D850, while being an excellent photo-only camera, it is a dead weight in video, unusable for video. The next thing is the Nikon Z6 and Z30. Both are excellent video cameras. Z6 has amazing high ISO performance, but both of these cameras do not have 10-bit video, so I needed to upgrade anyway. Fast forward to today, just a few months later, I'm using both Canon and Nikon gear. Starting off with Canon. The last time I purchased the Canon camera was 5 or 7 years ago, actually, a DSLR. Now I have this Canon R8 right here, which I have just published a video not too long ago, a few days ago, on why I chose Canon over Sony. I purchased a pre-owned but very new Canon R8 for only $1,000 equivalent, and then I picked up this RF 15 to 30 ultra-wide budget lens, 4.5 to 6.3. Why did I buy a Canon when I'm mainly a Nikon user, right? Yes, I'm buying into Canon as my second system, and I plan to stay on Canon for quite a while. Actually, I'm planning to get more lenses for it. Firstly, Canon R8, what I'm using is, number one, street photography. I go out, but I want full frame. This is a very lightweight kit. In fact, this thing is so light, it is unbelievable. And this is lighter than even a Nikon Z50 Mark II body only. It is insane. I also use it for landscape occasionally, landscape and architecture, more of a street style documentary photography. I love those kind of photos. And in studio, I use the R8 mostly for A-roll videos, talking head videos like the one you're watching right now. The reason being the 4K 30p of this camera, virtually no recording limit. The only limit is the battery life, unless you use an external power source, and it never overheats in 4K 30. In 4K 60, yes, it will overheat after around 30-35 minutes, but 4K 60, I still wanted it for B-rolls, for 2x slow-mo, and those kind of videos, you are filming 20-30 seconds, at most 1 minute. So I'm not too worried about overheating in 4K 60 because I will never go that long, 30 minutes in 4K 60 to begin with. This is also a camera I use for product unboxing with this ultra-wide 15 to 30 over here. I hook it above me, filming it downwards. I unbox any products I want to in my other channel. So this has been amazing so far. I don't care if there is no IBs because A-rolls and overhead videos, everything is rigged onto some kind of tripod, and yeah, you don't need IBs for that. The second lens I have for this Canon, I have also mentioned in my previous video, Canon EF 51.8 STM. This is $100 pre-owned. I believe this is a lens that almost, if not all, Canon users own, right? Be it the EF or the RF one. Everyone has a 51.8 if they are using Canon. So cheap, why not? The question here is, why did I buy an EF version and stick a cheap adapter on it as a temporary solution? Because the RF version is so overpriced in Malaysia, in my country. I have no idea why. Last year, when I was doing my research before buying a Canon R8, the RF 51.8 was going for $230 to $250 brand new. And I told myself, no way, I'm not paying $250 for a brand new Nifty 50 plastic lens. So I waited it out. I thought, hey, maybe the price will come down after a while. You know, there has been a high demand for that particular lens from what I heard, and a shortage in supply for reasons I don't know. But fast forward to January 2025, things have gotten worse. There are sellers out there asking for $300 or more for the RF 51.8. No, I won't pay that kind of price. So I'll be using this for a while despite a few limitations. I will be reviewing this adapter separately later on. Okay, so these are the only Canon gear I have at the moment, just starting out R8, 1530 and 51.8, which I'm quite happy with actually. Moving on to my Nikon gear. The first one would be the one filming me right now. You're looking at the camera, Nikon ZFC. I want a separate camera for mostly stills photography, and I want it to be stylish, you know. The Nikon ZF is something I want badly, but at the same time, I wasn't sure whether I will like the retro style controls, you know. Admittedly, I want it for the looks, so I decided to get my hands on a Nikon ZFC. I will talk about it in a separate video. I'm planning the review as well. A lot of things to like and dislike about this camera, so stay tuned for my take on the Nikon ZFC soon. It is not a 10-bit video camera, and the only reason why I'm using it to film myself right now is because I don't need 10-bit video in studio. Not much dynamic range to deal with in editing, and all of my other cameras need to be on my desk over here. Okay. Speaking of the Nikon Z40mm f2, this is hands down my most used lens of all time. This lens has been a staple whenever I go out and do street photography, or I want to film video in studio. A lot of people use 35mm or wider for video. For me in studio, I use 35 to 40mm because I prefer the compressed look of longer focal length, to be honest. Just a personal preference. And I don't want my ugly background just on the side over here to be visible, so I prefer 35 to 50mm range for videos in my studio. 200 plus US dollars, 200 grams only, buy one, throw it into your bag. On APS-C, 60mm, that is still a great street photography focal length, to be honest. Okay, moving on to my next Nikon gear over here. Let me mention the camera bodies first. Nikon Z8. So this is a camera that there is a lot to like and not much to hate on. Yeah, there are 2 or 3 things that I did not like, but I will share with you guys in a future video. I have so many gear to review over here. I purchased this around August of 2024, so 3-4 months of use so far. I'm just about to feel confidence enough to do a first look or initial review video after using it for over 3 months. Okay, so with the Nikon Z8, I got it for $350, almost $3,400 US dollars. That was the exchange rate back last year in August. Incredible value of a camera. This is almost the same price I paid for D850 back in year 2017. So I sold my D850 for the Z8 because I needed a proper hybrid camera for both photo and video. In fact, I've been using Z8 more for video rather than photo. I've used it on animals and birds a little bit, just a little bit. I've used it on portraits, mostly cosplayers in anime conventions. I've used it for product photography in studio as well, the scale models behind me. I've used it for pretty much everything. But for videos, I shoot the Nikon Z8 a lot in oversampled 4K 60p. I don't shoot in 8K because even if I can do it, just because you can, it does not mean you should. Even if you use proxy files, it is still a high demand on the graphics card, and my graphics card, I don't think it can handle 8K. So I have been doing up to 4K 60 maximum, and it is more than enough for me so far when I review products on YouTube. So this camera has made me very happy so far. It satisfies my demands, and you can see me using this for many years to come. Unless the Nikon Z8 II in a couple of years gives me a very good reason to upgrade, you can see me using this for quite a long while. Okay, moving on to the next lens over here. This is a staple lens in my workflow. I could not live without this lens. Yes, macro, right? Product photographer right here. Nikon Z105mm f2.8 MC, which is macro. I got this for around $900 brand new, which is an insane value for money. No, I got it for $850 US dollars, 850, 880 or so, under $900. Today it is a little bit more expensive in my country, solely because of exchange rate, but overall, if you are a Nikon user and you love macro, this is a must-have lens. Try to save up for this lens instead of adapting your old f-mount lens. This is an extremely sharp lens. I just couldn't praise this lens enough. This is a lens that always sits in my backpack whenever I travel from my home to my studio. I will always bring it with me, even though I'm not sure whether I'll be using a macro for that particular day of filming work. So I have been using this for video more than photo actually. And for video, the older f-mount lenses, they are not really up to the task because the AF motor is not as fast as the Z-mount version. So this is an indispensable lens for me, though I don't really bring it outdoors that much because, yeah, I use this for products in studio most of the time. Moving on to the next lens over here, this is the most expensive one. Nikon Z 50mm f1.2s. Okay, so I bought this actually quite a few years ago. When I had the Nikon Z6, I already purchased this lens. It is not very recent. Up until just 3 or 4 months ago, I still have the Sigma 1.4 Art, yes, the 50mm, which I used regularly on the D850, which means for a couple of years, I had both the 1.2 Z mount and the 1.4 Art next to each other. I owned two 50mm lenses that are super heavy, right? And after I replaced my D850 with Z8, I saw no reasons anymore to keep the Sigma Art. I sold it for $400. Which is the better lens? Of course, the 1.2 is better. The question is this 1.2S $1,500 better than the Sigma Art? No, of course not. So if you still own the Sigma 50mm Art and you are unwilling to spend big money buying native mirrorless lenses, that is a perfectly fine lens for photography. But once again, because I'm doing video, I'm doing hybrid work, I want a lens that is good for both, which is why I moved fully into mirrorless. Why did I buy the 1.2 instead of the 1.8S, which is a lot cheaper? Because I love 50mm and I am willing to spend. If there is a big reason, the main reason why I chose to buy a mirrorless 50mm lens by Nikon instead of keeping my Sigma Art, it's not just video. The main reason is focus breathing performance, right? So be it the 1.8S or even this 1.2S, these two lenses, they don't focus breathe at all, which is a godsend for me when I do focus bracketing work. It is something for product photographers do. Images come out amazing and they look like they have some kind of 3D pop. And there is not much post-processing work to do. It makes my work a lot easier. If your lens focus breathes too much and you stack them, what happens is that you will see a lot of very ugly ghosting and all those weird artifacts that you need to manually correct later. It is a huge pain in the butt. So for product photo shooters, for focus bracketers like me, focus breathing performance is the most important parameter, the most important spec I look for in a camera lens. Of course, the 1.8S is more than enough. The Nikon 1.8S does not have breathing as well, and that is all you need if you want to do focus bracketing. Why did I buy the 1.2? Because I want it, not because I need it. Personally, I don't mind the weight of this lens at all because in exchange for the size, I get zero focus breathing and I am not going to complain for that. This is a lens that sits in my studio or at my home. I rarely bring it out except for very certain events. If I'm attending an anime cosplay convention, I want to blur off the crowds in the background, then I'll bring it. You won't see this lens in my bag every day as I travel from my home to my studio. Yeah. Moving up to the next lens over here, this is one of the biggest lenses I have. A huge chonker of an ultra-wide zoom lens, Tamron SP 15 to 30mm f2.8 Di VC USD. This lens came out long ago. Back then, you know, when Nikon was famous for their f-mount 14 to 24 f2.8, but that lens was not very good by today's standards. It was beaten by this Tamron lens over here at less than half the cost. So I bought this lens pre-owned back in year 2018 also for roughly $500. If I were to sell it today, after so many years, I can still sell it for $350 to $400. And this is one of very few Tamron G1 lenses, not G2. One of very few G1 lenses that is usable on Nikon Z, including my Z8 over here, as long you send this lens to Tamron's service center to be updated. This is not a G2 lens, so you cannot update it yourself at home with the tap-in console. You need to send it to Tamron's service center. And because of the compatibility with Nikon Z bodies, I still use it today. Admittedly, this thing is so massive and heavy to bring out for landscape photography that I am contemplating on replacing it with lighter mirrorless lenses maybe sometime this year, later this year. This lens has less vignetting and less distortion than most modern mirrorless ultra-wide lenses, because modern lenses, in an attempt to make the lenses as small as possible, they do not correct the distortion or vignetting. They rely on software. Some people don't like this approach. Some people like it. I'm one of the latter. I prefer big and highly corrected lenses. And this was also a lens that I brought with me together with the Nikon D850 to overseas vacations. You see, I'm carrying bricks like this to vacations, but people are complaining about half a kilo cameras being too heavy today. Yeah. Anyways, the Tamron 15-30 with this FTZ adapter is over 1.3 kilograms, and this is a little bit insane for an ultra-wide lens. At the same time, I feel conflicted, like should I keep it or sell it for something smaller and lighter, because yeah, properties like this, they are not common anymore in modern mirrorless ultra-wide zoom lenses. Alright, moving up next, this is a lens that I use sparingly. It is sitting in my dry cabinet more than actually getting used. So I don't have this in my bag most of the time unless there are very specific videos for YouTube which I need this lens for video actually. So this is the Sigma 24-35 f2 Art. Just a few months ago, Sigma announced and released a successor of this lens for Sony E-mounts only so far, which is the 28-45 1.8 Art. And I was so disappointed because that lens was 28, not 24mm. Some people, they don't care. For me, I really want 24mm, right? So you can see a lot of overlap over here. Tamron 15-30, this is 24-35. Doesn't make any sense, isn't it? Because the Tamron is actually great for 15-20mm. After 20mm, the image sharpness is not as great for landscape photography. Usable. Very usable, but not as great. That is where this 24-35 comes in. I'm insane, right? I know that. Sometimes I bring both the Tamron 15-30 and also the Sigma Art 24-35 outdoors on a landscape photography trip. This lens has the same performance as individual prime lenses in terms of levels of contrast, clarity, and sharpness. So I decided to pick up this lens because it is like a 3-in-1 prime lens, 24, 28, and 35, and actually to get prime lens quality. Plus with the 82mm front filter thread over here, which is very important to me. You see, my 50 1.2 is an 82mm lens. This is also an 82mm lens. I can share the same filters, which is why I was interested in replacing that Tamron 15-30 with the new Nikon Z 14-30 f4s. Yeah, f4, but 82mm filter thread, you see? Moving on to the next lens over here, something very niche. Okay, so this is TT Artisan 11mm 2.8 fisheye. In my opinion, everyone needs to learn how to use a fisheye lens, though I suppose there will be people who will disagree with me. That is fine, because it adds to the variety of your photographs. Like, if you use this every day, it is going to feel gimmicky and overused. But once in a while, if you are able to compose a very nice landscape image with a fisheye lens, I think it is a nice lens to have. And if you want to learn fisheye lenses, then pick up a cheap manual lens. Maybe look for a Samyang lens. Yeah, Samyang fisheye lens. They're very famous for that. I bought the TT Artisan simply because this is a native Z mount and it was available many years ago. I bought this many years ago and it was like $180 only for a full frame f2.8 lens. Not bad at all. Not to mention, this is a lens that it gets used like 5 times a year. I will still keep it for the foreseeable future because if there are the occasions where I want something special in my photos, then I can consider bringing this out. So this is a lens that almost never sits in my bag. It is only with the occasional situation where I feel some kind of inspiration, I have a unique idea which I want to try, then I'll bring this out with me. Otherwise, this is sitting in my dry cabinet most of the time as well. Moving on to my last Nikon lens that I own over here. This is also my cheapest TT Artisan 32mm f2.8. This is a full frame lens, but I use it on my Nikon ZFC more often because of the equivalent 48mm focal length. No, I love 50mm. Okay, so this is a $130 full frame autofocus lens. The minimum focusing distance is quite long, so I don't really like it on full frame. On AAP-SC, you get a crop, you can get a little bit closer, you know. So, and not to mention, this lens looks quite nice on this retro-looking ZFC. So I prefer to use it on my ZFC. So speaking of what is in my bag, let's say I'm going out on a typical day just to document life on the streets, street photography, documentary photography, or just snapping pictures in general. My minimalist setup would be a sling bag like this. Can buy any sling bag that you prefer, and in the bag it would be this ZFC with the 32mm TT Artisan, and on top of that I will have this 16-50 kit lens, yup, and also the 40 f2. So 3 tiny lenses and a retro camera for the streets for daily use. This is my minimalist setup for going outdoors in general. As for in studio, where I review products, I photograph toys, figurines, scale models, then my normal setup would be a backpack like this. A cheap standard backpack with no brand from China, and inside my bag there will be 2 cameras, Canon R8 with the 51.8 for A-roll videos, 50mm, and then I have the 15-30 RF inside my bag. That is for overhead videos where I do product unboxing. On top of that, I have a Nikon Z8 together with the 105mm macro for B-rolls, product B-rolls, close-up photographs and videos in general. And I also throw this 40 f2 into the bag just in case I need a normal view lens, right? In case I need a normal photo, then I have a lens for it. Since this thing is so small and light and takes up almost no space in the bag, I just throw it into any of my bags whenever I go out, be it to studio or for landscape or for streets. This is always in my bag. So that would be 4 lenses and 2 camera bodies in this backpack, which is almost full. This bag would be almost full. So as you can see, my choice of camera gear is quite specialized. I don't have standard zoom like a 24-70, a 24-105. I don't have anything like that. I never had a lens like that for the past 10 years. I buy lenses that are so specialized for the kind of work I do, and then I save money elsewhere. And that is for the camera gear part. What about accessories, which are just as important? So I use cheap Chinese tripods, $800 to $150 price range, and they have been serving me well for the past 4 or 5 years. I have a QZ SD tripod, 轻装时代, $80 or so, and it has been serving me well for so many years. I have no complaints with it. I have another video tripod over there that costs like $150 for the past 2-3 years. No problems at all as well. So I don't see it necessary to spend $500 or $1,000 on a Gitzo tripod, on a Manfrotto tripod. Though those are the kind of things where if I could afford it very easily, yes, I want it, but not a necessity at home or in studio at this point of the time. Okay, and then speaking of the 3 most important accessories that I use very often, The first one here, I've just reviewed this very recently, a dolly robot or dolly wheel. In the past, you can find one for $50, $60. Nowadays, it is more like $100 because the newer models, they have more features like Bluetooth connection and all those fancy features that you access from your smartphone app. So those are more expensive. This is an older model, a very basic bare bones model with a remote control and only 3 speed settings, which is why it was cheap at $50. Nowadays, it is more like $100 for the newer models. This is so essential in my B-roll filming of my product videos in studio, but this is also only a video accessory, not so much for photos. The second thing, electronic slider. So this is something that I don't think I will review because this is an old model. This is the Zappen Micro 2 electronic slider. I got it for around $350 or $400. That was a few years back. And this thing is a godsend as well, especially videos. You get a very smooth, like cinematic style video. If you want to do some fancy intro, then you can use this as well. Combined with a macro lens, this thing is amazing. Though in the recent few months, it has been acting funny. I have no idea why. Whether it is a software issue involving my smartphone, like the app is not communicating with this slider very well. Sometimes it does not respond to what I tell it to do in my smartphone app. I have no idea why. This is only a recent thing, recent 2 or 3 months. I'm not sure if a software update to my smartphone messed up the app or anything like that. I'm not too sure. But this thing has been acting up a little bit lately. Maybe if I save up a little bit more, I'll buy the newer Zappen Micro 4. Yeah, the new one, Micro 4. I would like an Adachrome, but that is so bloody expensive. Moving on to the next accessory, very important. So right now I'm sitting on my desk. I can use a condenser mic, which is what I always prefer because the audio just sounds a lot nicer. But if that is not possible, for example, I'm unboxing a big box of product, I can't have a mic right in front of me, then this is where wireless left mics are so important. This is the good old Rode Wireless Go 2. So this was like $250 back in the day, more than a year or 2 years ago when I purchased one. And the audio quality has been okay, very decent actually. Of course, the newer Pro models or the one by DJI could be even better, but those are like $400 to $500. This one, if you are on a budget, can go for the original Rode Wireless Go 2. I think nowadays you can get one for around $200 and they are great. You get 2 microphones and a receiver over here. Can use it with your smartphone or even with cameras. So this is important. And the best thing about this Rode Wireless over here, despite being an older model, is that there is a backup track. Yeah, there is a second copy recorded into the mic itself. So in case something really bad happens, and for any reason the audio recorded inside a camera or your smartphone sounds a bit weird, or there is interference, stuff like that, then you have a backup track inside here. Yeah. Or things get too loud, for example, I speak really loud actually, then there is a backup track over here which is 6 decibels softer. Yeah. So these are the 3 most important accessories for me while in studio, though this mic is also useful outdoors obviously for vlogging. Okay, moving on to the next accessory over here. This is always in my bag, ND filters. So this is a cheap one, K&F ND filter. This is the B-Swiss filter. I have 2 sizes, 52 and 82mm. So the 52mm is for my smaller lenses like the 40f2 and the kit lens over here. I use 52 and then any smaller size I use an adapter ring. And the 82 is for my bigger lenses like the 51.2. Okay, moving on to the next accessory over here. This is the least important one. And this is probably only essential to content creators. If you are a photographer, I don't think you need this. So I have another bag over here, which if I go outdoors, this is always around my waist, a fanny pack. Yes, a pouch. So what is inside this fanny pack? I have a DJI Action 4, and the reason why I have an action camera like this is because, I stick this on my chest, on my shoulder, or even on top of my camera on the hot shoe via an accessory. So if I were to photograph something or I want to document myself photographing something for making videos on YouTube later, I want a first person view video, then a GoPro, a DJI Action camera like this is indispensable. I think every YouTuber needs to have one. or just to get extra video footages later, you can throw into your edits so that your video does not feel too boring, too static to look at. You have additional videos to play with in general. So it is always nice to have extra content. You just stick it to your chest via a magnetic necklace, and you're good to go. And this would be ND filters for this DJI Action 4. So far, I don't use it often. So if I were doing first-person view videos, like showing myself photographing someone else with this camera on my chest, then I don't bother with this ND filter at all. ND filter is for occasions where I want some B-roll videos, cinematic looking videos with an action camera, with this thing mounted on my car's dashboard, on my car's hood, for example, and I want something cinematic. I need the 180-degree shutter angle, So 60p video would be 1 by 120 seconds. In broad daylight, that is not possible. That is when ND filters come in. Otherwise, I don't really use it for documentary style videos where this thing is on my chest. I don't care what the shutter speed of the video is for those kind of scenarios. But it is nice to have just in case. And in my pouch over here, nothing much. Yeah, the battery pack for the Action 4, 3 batteries over here, and also a power bank. This is a heavy one, 20,000 milliamps. Okay, so this is quite the heavy pouch to be around my waist, but it is so important to me because I always have access to my action camera each time I go out, be it for landscape or street photography. I want to capture extra video footages. I just grab this and stick it around my waist and I'm good to go. I don't have to think, did I leave out something? Did I forget to bring something? No, everything including the accessories for mounting on my chest or on my camera hot shoe, everything is inside here. So I think it is great to have a pouch if you don't have one. So that is all for the stuff on what is in my camera bag for year 2025. A lot of stuff, right? And I might buy more gear this year. So I will be saving that for another video, my wish list for year 2025. Until then, yeah, if you have something to chip in, what camera gear do you use? What kind of photography do you do? Yeah, share it with me. Just comment, right? I would love to hear your thoughts and what is your camera lineup like. Until then, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, give this video a thumbs up, a like, and subscribe to this channel to help this channel grow. This is a small channel. Until then, I'll see you guys again very soon. Goodbye.